Hello everyone, and welcome back to my social work profile. In this video, I would like to reflect the learning aspects in Module 3. There are many important topics, but I would like to focus on these three areas. I can easily relate to these issues as I experienced them personally and professionally. If you remember my first video, I mentioned that I migrated from Philippines to Canada and work as a temporary foreign worker. Reading Chapter 10 about racialized Canadian and immigrants is like reading some parts of my life. Let's turn back time and look at the Canadian immigration history. Prior 1967, nationality was the main criterion in admission in Canada. Eurocentric immigration was encouraged from white Europe and discouraged from the rest of the world. Not until in 1967, immigrants must qualify based on education, work experience, language proficiency, and age. Country of origin was no longer an explicit criterion for the process of application. Thanks to the new legislation introduced a system of immigration known as a point system. Here's the chart that shows the dramatic shift of Canadian immigration. However, immigration issues did not stop there. In the present day, the three issues that was mentioned in the book was directly affected the professional who assist immigrants are skill recognition, family reunification, and Canadian Foreign Worker Program. Many immigrants leave their home countries in the hopes for a better life and more opportunities. One of the point system is based on educations and skills. However, if these skills were not ultimately valued as Canadian experience, the result is underemployment. Many have no recourse but must accept the lower skilled and low-paying jobs. Another issue is the family reunification backlogs and delays. Oh, the waiting game. I live and experience the process, and all I can say, immigration is not for the faint-hearted. In retrospect, a professional working to help immigrants settle in Canada has raised the question as to where family reunification application should not be processed as quickly as for those economic immigrants, considering the enormous relief it would bring to applicants themselves and their Canadian families. The stigma that immigrants face about how they steal the jobs from most Canadians has increased tension between native citizens and immigrants. It is unfortunate that temporary foreign worker often presented recently as if pitted against Canadian worker. Neither should be blamed, as the root of the problem is structural. As somebody who has gone through the process of immigration and now a naturalized citizen, I recognize both sentiments. Aspirants from another country coming into student visas, temporary foreign worker, and express entry program bring their money to spend in Canada, so as their talent and education. As a result, this will help alleviate some economic stress. Immigrants who were granted by invitation under express entry are highly competitive. Many people apply, but only few were selected. In my experience, it is not as easy as straightforward as it seems, and the process is not for faint-hearted. Immigrating requires time, money, and the right qualifications. Abuse can easily happen for temporary workers. It can be intimidating for a person with a temporary status to complain about mistreatment because of the fear of being simply deported. What kind of a society we are building if we treat temporary foreign workers like a disposable material? To have a two-tier membership where some people have limited rights and cannot immigrate properly to advance themselves is steering towards a social imbalance culture. Now, moving on to my next topic, the social work and people with disabilities. As I have mentioned in my previous video, I work with people with disabilities for many years in both profit and non-profit agencies, so this topic speaks to me. It is common in most society to culturally accentuate beauty and physical attractiveness, which we typically associate with sexuality and desirability. Often, people with disability does not meet the cultural standards of physical attractiveness, which contributes to the stigma attached to disability and sex. It implies that having disability is to be undesirable and unlovable. People in general tends to notice the superficial appearance by nature. The beauty standards created by our culture influences us, which makes it harder to look beyond the surface and know the person's quality that makes them attractive. This applies to everyone, not just people with disabilities. There is nothing wrong with setting standards for attractiveness, but as a society, maybe we need to reset the typical standard of beauty to the next layer persona. In a superficial world we live in today, the real challenge is how. Before I move on to my last topic, the social work intervention process, I would like to share with you my Tree of Life exercises. I encourage you to give it a try. This exercise helped me weave my personal values and wisdom with scientific knowledge I learned from Social Work 201. I once heard a quote, "We are the sum of our decisions." I agree with that, but after completing the Tree of Life exercise, I realized that we are also product of our past, present, futures, and hopes and dreams. Our roots, culture, values, people that are important to us plays a huge factor in who we are now and who we want to be. It shapes our character. It influences how we interact with others and how we view people that may be quite different from our belief and backgrounds. For instance, I may have different beliefs about homosexuality, polyamory, or non-monogamy because of my faith and religious background. Don't get me wrong, I do not see them any less of a person, but I also acknowledge that it is against my personal values and faith. Since being genuine is important to me, so I will not pretend that I agree with someone for the sake of similarity to avoid contention. It can be challenging setting aside your personal ideals and have an open mind so we can learn from each other. Since I also value respect, I recognize that everyone has their own principle, and I must respect them. The Tree of Life exercise was the most enjoyable one, but what challenged me and think like a social worker is the assignment where I have to explore on how I would use the social work intervention process, such as relationship building, assessment, intervention, evaluation, and relationship ending. I was able to apply these strategies to work with the individual in the case study I have chosen, whose name is Andrew, in Picture This. For visualization purposes, I created a chart so I can share my thought process. The approach and strategies discussed help me organize my thoughts and how to support clients that urge evidence-based practice. It is structured and serves as a roadmap in applying theories into practice. I find social work interesting because it is both science and art. I am excited about how I can interdependently use my personal skills, values, and qualities with a scientific knowledge base that is backed up by research and organized way of thinking. I found this differentiation between science and art that speaks to me the most and how I view social work, and I wanted to share it with you. An art manipulates, controls, and changes. A science seeks only to understand. An art individualizes. A science generalizes. An art lives in concrete embodiments. A science lives in abstract relationships. Each has its own task to perform, and while each needs the other, neither can ever perform the task of the other. So, what is my takeaway in all of this? Here are my key points. We all have philosophy, core values, and personal attributes. It is what makes us unique and the foundation of who we are. The key is to understand how it influences us in many ways and use that wisdom with purpose to support others for the greater good. As an aspiring social worker, I learned that ableism is a term we must be acquainted with, just like racism, sexism, heterosexism, and ageism. As I go through the chapters, I came to recognize how privileged I am as an able-bodied. I want to use that advantage to make a difference and redefine diversity. Stereotypes and stigma can make it difficult for the marginalized population. Being different than what society's standards and norm can cause discrimination and oppression. Everyone is unique in their own way and has a place in our society. We often correlate diversity to ethnicity, race, age, sex, and culture. But diversity is way more than that. It is larger scale and systemic. Diversity incorporates all human beings and oversees beyond gender, age, color of the skin, abilities, and disabilities. Diversity can be enlightening. It brings new ideas so we're not stuck in our old ways and forces us to question our values and beliefs. It fosters innovations. It helps us to think outside the box and makes us better in problem solving. It spices up our life experiences and can be liberating, knowing that in this realm, there is no one size fits all. So we have to turn our world around. I hope you enjoy and find value in this content. I'll see you in my next video. Ciao!